I worked security at a private hospital in northern Ohio for almost 2 years. Most people think hospital security is exciting, like you're constantly breaking up fights or chasing people out of emergency rooms. The truth is, most nights are boring. You walk the same halls, check the same doors, watch the same cameras, and try not to fall asleep under fluorescent lights that make everything feel dead. My shift was 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I like nights because there were fewer people, fewer visitors, fewer administrators, fewer doctors walking around like they owned the oxygen. Just nurses, janitors, the occasional patient wandering where they shouldn't, and people like me trying to keep the building quiet. The hospital had 4 floors. The 4th floor was mostly recovery rooms and a small oncology wing. That floor always felt different after midnight. I don't mean haunted. I mean empty in a way that felt intentional, like the building wanted you to know you were alone. The first time I saw the old man was around 2:15 in the morning. I was doing my rounds on the 4th floor when I noticed a patient standing near the vending machines. He was wearing a pale blue hospital gown, white socks, and one of those plastic ID bands around his wrist. He had thin gray hair and skin that looked almost yellow under the lights. He was facing the vending machine, but he wasn't buying anything. He was just standing there, staring at his reflection in the glass. "Sir," I said. He didn't turn. I stepped closer. "Sir, are you okay? Do you need help getting back to your room?" That's when he slowly turned his head. His eyes were open too wide. Not angry, not scared, just empty. He said, "I'm waiting for my wife." His voice was dry, like he hadn't had water in days. I looked around. The hallway was silent, except for the hum of lights and distant beeping from patient monitors. "What's your room number?" I asked. He raised his wrist slightly, like he wanted me to read the band. I leaned in. The name printed on it was Harold Bennett. Room 417. I radioed the nurses' station. "Security to 4th floor nurses. I've got a patient named Harold Bennett near the vending machines. Room 417. Can someone come assist?" There was a pause. Then a nurse named Kelly answered. "Say that again." "Harold Bennett. Room 417. Another pause. Then Kelly said, "Stay right there." The way she said it made my stomach tighten. A minute later, she came speed-walking down the hall with another nurse behind her. When they reached me, the old man was still there, facing the vending machine again. Kelly stopped dead. Her face went pale. "Mr. Bennett?" she whispered. The old man turned toward her. "I'm waiting for my wife," he said again. Kelly didn't move. The other nurse grabbed my arm and pulled me back a step. "What's wrong?" I asked. Kelly swallowed hard. "Mr. Bennett passed away Sunday night. It was Wednesday morning. At first, I thought she was messing with me. Nurses joke about dark stuff all the time. You have to, in places like that. But neither of them looked like they were joking." Kelly stepped forward carefully. "Mr. Bennett, let's get you back to your room." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "She said she'd come back for me." And he walked away from us. Not fast, not panicked, just slowly down the hall toward room 417. We followed him. When he reached the door, he opened it and stepped inside. Kelly flicked on the room light. The room was empty. No old man, no patient, no bathroom door closing, no window open, nothing. Just a stripped hospital bed and a plastic chair. I checked the bathroom. Empty. I checked under the bed, which was ridiculous, but my brain needed a normal explanation. Nothing. Kelly started crying. The other nurse whispered, "Nope, I'm not doing this." That night, I wrote an incident report. I kept it vague. Possible unauthorized patient wandering 4th floor. Unable to locate after entering room 417. My supervisor laughed when he read it. "Night shift imagination," he said. I wanted to believe that. 2 nights later, I saw him again. This time, he was on camera. I was at the security desk watching the monitors. Camera 4B showed the 4th floor hallway near oncology. At 3:03 a.m., Harold Bennett walked into frame. Same gown, same socks, same slow walk. He stopped outside room 417 and looked directly up at the camera. My skin went cold. I grabbed the radio. 4th floor, check hallway outside, 417. No answer. I called again. 4th floor nurses, respond. Static. I looked back at the screen. Harold was still staring into the camera. Then he lifted one hand and pointed down the hallway. Not his room. At the stairwell. I left the desk and took the elevator up. I had my flashlight, my radio, and a can of pepper spray. I wasn't thinking ghost. I was thinking maybe there was some confused patient using Harold's name. Maybe a dementia case. Maybe someone had printed the wrong wristband. The elevator opened onto the 4th floor. The hallway was colder than usual. I walked toward 417. Empty. Then I heard something from the stairwell. A soft scraping sound, like someone dragging their fingernails along painted metal. I opened the stairwell door. Hello. The sound stopped. I shined my flashlight down. Nothing. Then I heard a woman whisper from below. Harold. My radio crackled so loudly I almost dropped it. Kelly's voice came through. Where are you? 4th floor stairwell. She said, get out of there. Why? His wife died in that stairwell. I didn't move. Kelly continued, her voice shaking. 2 years ago, she was visiting him during one of his treatments. She had a stroke on the stairs between 3 and 4. They found her there in the morning. From somewhere below me, the whisper came again. Harold. Then footsteps started climbing. Slow. Heavy. One step. Then another. I backed out of the stairwell and let the door slam shut. For the rest of that night, I stayed at the security desk and watched camera 4B. At 4:12 a.m., the stairwell door on the 4th floor opened by itself. No one came out, but the camera audio picked up something faint. A woman crying. The next morning, I asked my supervisor to pull the old footage from Sunday night, the night Harold Bennett died. He didn't want to. He said there was no reason. I told him something was wrong on the 4th floor. He rolled his eyes, but eventually he logged into the archive system. The footage showed Harold's room at 11:48 p.m. A nurse checked on him. He was alive. At 12:31 a.m., Harold sat up in bed. He looked toward the door. Nobody was there. Then he smiled. Not a small smile. A full, relieved smile like someone he loved had just walked in. He reached out his hand. Then he got out of bed. My supervisor leaned closer to the screen. What the hell? Harold walked out of his room and into the hallway. The camera followed him as he moved toward the stairwell. Then, just before he reached the door, the footage glitched. Not blacked out. Not static. It froze for exactly 17 seconds. When it came back, Harold was lying on the floor outside the stairwell door. Dead. The official report said cardiac arrest. But that wasn't the part that made me quit. My supervisor checked another camera angle. This one faced the vending machines. T 12:30 a.m., 1 minute before Harold sat up in bed, a woman appeared in the hallway. She was older, wearing a beige coat, carrying a purse. She walked past the vending machines toward Harold's room. My supervisor paused the video. Who is that? I asked. He didn't answer. He zoomed in. The woman's face was blurry, but clear enough. Kelly later confirmed it from an old visitor badge photo. It was Harold's wife, dead for 2 years. After that, management told everyone to stop talking about it. The last night I worked there, I had to do one final round on the 4th floor. I didn't want to, but pride is stupid, and I told myself I wasn't going to let an empty hallway scare me. At 2:15 a.m., I reached the vending machines. Harold was there, standing in the same spot. This time, he wasn't looking at the machine. He was looking at me. Beside him stood a woman in a beige coat. She held his hand. For a few seconds, none of us moved. Then Harold smiled. Not the empty smile from the footage. A grateful one. He said, she came back. The woman turned her head toward the stairwell. The door opened. They walked toward it together. Before they disappeared inside, Harold looked back at me one last time. Don't work nights too long, he said. Things start recognizing you. Then the stairwell door closed. I never went back. A year later, Kelly texted me. She said the hospital had closed the 4th floor for renovations. Workers kept complaining about hearing footsteps in the stairwell and a woman calling a man's name. I asked her if they still saw Harold. She replied with one sentence. No. Now they see someone else. I blocked her number after that. I don't know what she meant, and I don't want to know. They said it upset the staff and disturbed patient care. They deleted the footage from the shared archive, but not before my supervisor saved a copy on a USB drive. He got fired 3 weeks later. I quit not long after. I used to work the overnight shift at a truck stop off Interstate 80 in Nebraska. It was one of those places you only stop at because there's nothing else for 50 miles. Gas pumps, diner counter, showers, bathrooms, and a convenience store with bad coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard. My shift was midnight to 8 a.m. Most nights were predictable. Truckers came in tired, bought coffee, cigarettes, energy drinks, and microwave burritos. Some were friendly. Some looked like they hadn't spoken to another human being in days. I learned not to ask too many questions. The weird stuff started with a man in a red flannel jacket. He came in at exactly 3:17 a.m. I remember the time because I had just looked at the clock above the register. The automatic doors slid open, and this tall man walked in wearing a red flannel jacket, jeans, muddy work boots, and a black baseball cap pulled low over his face. He didn't say anything. He walked straight to the coffee station, poured a large black coffee, grabbed 2 sugar packets, and brought it to the counter. "Anything else?" I asked. He shook his head. His face was hard to see under the cap, but I noticed his beard, gray and patchy. "That'll be $2.14. He paid with exact change. Before leaving, he looked at me and said, "Road's bad tonight." I glanced outside. The weather was clear. No rain. No snow. No fog. "Yeah," I said. He nodded toward the highway. Mile 218. Then he walked out. I watched through the window as he crossed the lot. But I didn't see a truck. That was the first strange thing. At a truck stop that empty, you notice vehicles. There were only 3 parked rigs out front, and none of them were near where he walked. He headed toward the far edge of the lot, where the lights barely reached, and then he was just gone. I didn't think much of it. Maybe he parked behind the building. The next night, he came in again. Exactly 3:17 a.m. Same clothes. Same coffee. Same 2 sugar packets. Same exact change. "Road's bad tonight," he said. I forced a laugh. "You said that yesterday." He looked up at me. For the first time, I saw his eyes. They were pale blue and bloodshot, like he hadn't slept in a month. "No," he said quietly. "I said it tonight." Then he left. This happened for 5 nights in a row. Always 3:17 a.m. Always large black coffee. Always 2 sugars. Always exact change. Always the same warning. "Road's bad tonight." Mile 218. By the 6th night, I was tired of being creeped out. When he left, I ran to the window and watched the lot. He crossed under the lights, past Pump 6, and walked toward the dark edge near the old service road. No truck. No taigits. Nothing. I checked the security cameras. The monitor behind the counter showed 4 angles: front door, register, pumps, and parking lot. I rewound to 3:17. The front door camera showed the doors sliding open, but nobody walked in. The register camera showed me standing there, looking at someone, talking, taking money, and handing back nothing. The coffee station camera showed the coffee pot lift slightly, tilt, and pour into a cup. No man, no red flannel, no black cap, just the cup moving by itself. I stared at the screen until my eyes hurt. Then I checked the register. There was $2.14 in change sitting exactly where he had placed it. The next morning, I told my manager, Dave. Dave was the kind of guy who believed nothing unless it affected inventory. He laughed at me and said, "Congratulations. You met a truck stop ghost. Don't give him free refills." I showed him the footage. He stopped laughing. He watched it twice, then told me not to talk about it with customers. That was his solution. Not, "Let's call someone," or "Let's figure this out." Just don't scare the customers. The following night, Dave stayed with me. He sat behind the counter drinking coffee and pretending he wasn't nervous. At 3:16, the whole building seemed to go quiet. Not regular quiet, deep quiet. The refrigerators stopped humming. The overhead lights flickered once. Even the highway noise faded until it felt like the entire world was holding its breath. At 3:17, the automatic doors opened. The man in the red flannel walked in. Dave stood up so fast his chair rolled backward. The man didn't look at him. He walked to the coffee station, poured his drink, added 2 sugars, and came to the counter. Dave whispered, "Can you see him?" "Yeah," I whispered back. The man placed the exact change on the counter. Then he looked directly at Dave. "You weren't here that night," he said. Dave's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The man turned to me. Road's bad tonight, he said. Mile 218. I finally asked, what happens at mile 218? His expression changed. Not anger. Pain. He leaned closer and whispered, she's still in the cab. Then he walked out. Dave and I ran to the window. This time we both saw it. For maybe 3 seconds, at the far edge of the parking lot, there was a semi-truck. Old. White. Wrecked. The front end was crushed inward like it had hit something huge. One headlight worked, flickering weakly. The driver's door hung open. Then the truck vanished. Dave quit 2 days later. I should have done the same. Instead, I got curious. That was my mistake. I searched online for accidents near mile marker 218. It didn't take long to find one. 10 years earlier, a truck driver named Raymond Cole had crashed during a winter storm. He was hauling frozen food eastbound when he lost control near mile 218. His truck jackknifed it, went off the road, and slammed into a concrete drainage wall. He died on impact, but the article said his wife had been riding with him. Her body was never found. That made no sense. How do you lose a body in a truck crash? I kept reading. There were rumors in old forum posts from truckers. Some said the cab had burned. Some said the crash scene was mishandled. One guy claimed the trailer was searched, but not the sleeper cab properly because part of it had collapsed. The official report said she was presumed dead. Presumed. The next night, I brought a flashlight and waited. At 3:17, Raymond came in. By then, I knew his name. He got his coffee and came to the counter. I didn't ring him up. I said, Raymond. His hand froze. For the first time, he looked scared. I said, where is she? His lips trembled. Mile 218. Where exactly? He leaned forward. His breath smelled like diesel, smoke, and something rotten. Under the bed. Then the lights went out. Every light in the store shut off at once. The emergency lights clicked on, bathing everything in red. Raymond was gone, but something outside blasted a truck horn. Long, low, so loud the windows shook. I called 911. I told them there might be human remains near an old crash site. The dispatcher obviously thought I was insane, but I gave enough details that they sent a state trooper to check. The next morning, 2 officers came to the truck stop. They asked how I knew where to send them. I lied and said a trucker told me. They found an old section of sleeper cab buried in mud below the embankment near mile 218. Inside, under what used to be the bunk, they found human remains. Female. The dental records later confirmed it was Raymond Cole's wife. After that, Raymond stopped coming in. For almost 3 weeks, the 317 visit ended. I felt good about it at first. Like maybe I had helped him. Like maybe whatever was stuck there could finally move on. Then one night at 3:17, the automatic doors opened again. I looked up, expecting Raymond. But it wasn't him. It was a woman. She wore a torn winter coat. Her hair was tangled and wet with melted snow, even though it was warm outside. Her face was gray, and one side of her jaw hung slightly wrong. She walked to the coffee station, poured a large black coffee, added 2 sugars, brought it to the counter. Her hands were covered in dirt. I couldn't speak. She placed exact change in front of me. Then she smiled. Road's bad tonight, she said. My eyes filled with tears. I don't know why. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. I whispered, you were found. You can leave now. Her smile faded. She looked toward the highway, then back at me. Raymond didn't crash, she said. The automatic doors opened behind her. Cold air poured in. Out in the parking lot, at the edge of the lights, the wrecked white semi appeared again. This time, Raymond stood beside it. He was staring at me. The woman leaned closer. He put me under the bed before mile 218. Then the lights flickered. She was gone. So was the truck. I quit that morning. A month later, I got a call from one of the troopers. He said they had reopened parts of the investigation. I asked why. He said the medical examiner found evidence that Raymond's wife had died before the crash. I asked how long before. The trooper said, maybe hours. I never heard anything else. But sometimes, when I'm driving late at night, I catch myself checking the mile markers. And whenever I see 218, I keep both hands on the wheel, no matter what state I'm in. Because I know some roads remember what happened on them. And some passengers never really get out. Just wallpaper and a framed black and white photo of the hotel from the 1920s. I stood there listening. At first, nothing. Then 3 knocks came from inside the wall. Slow. Heavy. Knock. 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 I stepped back. Hello, I said, which was stupid, because what answer could possibly make me feel better? A voice replied from inside the wall. Maintenance. It was a woman. I nearly dropped my flashlight. I grabbed my radio. Maya, I need you on 4. Now. No response. I tried again. Static. The woman inside the wall said, Please. It's cold in here. I put my ear near the wallpaper. Ma'am, where are you? Room 407. There is no room 407. A pause. Then she whispered, There used to be. I ran back to the elevator. The doors wouldn't open. I pressed the button again and again. Nothing. The hallway lights flickered. Then another work order printed from the small service printer mounted near the housekeeping closet. That printer was not plugged in. I knew that because it had been broken for months. The paper slid out anyway. I pulled it free with shaking hands. Maintenance request. Room 407. Issue. Guest locked inside. Priority. Immediate. At the bottom, under guest name, it said, Evelyn Carter. I went down the stairs to the lobby. Maya was standing behind the front desk, pale and wide-eyed. You heard her? She asked. I nodded. Maya looked toward the security office, then back at me. You need to leave it alone. Someone's in the wall. No, she said. Someone was. She told me the story in pieces. In 1989, before the hotel was renovated, room 407 existed. A woman named Evelyn Carter had checked in during a snowstorm. She was traveling alone. According to the old incident report, she called the front desk complaining about knocking in the wall. Maintenance was sent up, but the employee never found anything. Later that night, Evelyn called again. This time she said someone was inside her room. When security went up, the room was empty. Her suitcase was still there. Her coat was still hanging in the closet. Her shoes were beside the bed. But Evelyn was gone. The hotel claimed she left on her own. Her family didn't believe it. She was never found. A few years later, during renovations, room 407 was removed. Officially, it was because of plumbing and layout issues. Unofficially, employees kept hearing a woman knocking from inside the walls. I asked Maya why nobody told me. She said, Because most people never get the request. That made my stomach drop. What do you mean most people? Maya opened a drawer and pulled out an old folder. Inside were printed work orders. Room 407. Dozens of them. Different dates. Different years. Always between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. Always urgent. Some had names I didn't recognize. But the oldest ones said Evelyn Carter. The newer ones had employee names. Maintenance workers. Security guards. Housekeepers. People who had quit, transferred, or in 2 cases, gone missing. Maya pointed to one from 5 years earlier. My uncle worked here, she said. He got the request. He went upstairs. They found his tool bag outside the wall, where 407 used to be. They never found him. I didn't know what to say. Then the maintenance printer behind us came to life. Another work order. Maya covered her mouth. I picked it up. Maintenance request. Room 407. Issue. Send the new man back. Priority. Now. At the bottom, under guest name, it said my full name. I left the hotel that night. Or I tried to. The front doors wouldn't open. Maya and I pushed them. Nothing. The automatic sensors clicked, but the doors stayed sealed. The phones went dead. The lights in the lobby dimmed. Then the elevator dinged. The doors opened. Nobody was inside. The button for the 4th floor was already lit. Maya whispered, Don't. But then we heard knocking. Not from upstairs. From everywhere. Behind the walls. Under the floor. Inside the front desk. Knock. 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 A woman's voice came through the lobby speakers. Maintenance. I don't know why I stepped into the elevator. Fear does strange things. Sometimes it makes you run. Sometimes it makes you obey. Maya grabbed my sleeve, but I pulled away. The doors closed. The elevator rose to the 4th floor. When it opened, the hallway was different. The carpet was red, not brown. The wallpaper was floral. The lights were warmer, older. At the end of the hall, between 405 and 409, there was a door. The brass numbers were scratched. I walked toward it. From inside, Evelyn cried, Please hurry. I had my master key card, but the door didn't have a modern lock. It had an old brass knob. I turned it. Locked. I took a screwdriver from my bag and started working the latch. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely hold the tool. From inside the room, Evelyn whispered, "He's coming back." "Who?" I asked. "The man in the walls." The hallway behind me creaked. I turned. At the far end, a section of wallpaper bulged outward, like someone was pushing from behind it. Then it split. A hand came through. Long fingers, gray skin, black nails. I stopped trying to pick the lock and kicked the door. Once. Twice. On the third kick, it flew open. Room 407 was freezing. There was a bed, a suitcase, a rotary phone, and a woman standing by the window. Evelyn Carter. She looked exactly like an old missing person photo Maya had shown me. Short dark hair, blue dress, pale face. "Come on," I shouted. She didn't move. She looked past me into the hallway. "He doesn't let guests leave," she said. The wall behind the bed began to knock from the inside. Not 3 knocks this time. Hundreds, like fists pounding from every direction. The wallpaper bubbled and tore. Faces pressed through it. Mouths open. Eyes sewn shut with shadow. I grabbed Evelyn's wrist. Her skin was ice cold. The second I touched her, the room changed. I saw what happened in 1989. A maintenance man opening a hidden service panel behind the bed. Evelyn seeing something she wasn't supposed to see. Hands pulling her into the wall. Her screaming while the hotel manager stood in the doorway and did nothing. Then the vision snapped away. Evelyn was crying. "Tell them," she said. "Tell who?" "My sister." Then something grabbed my ankle. I fell hard. My flashlight rolled under the bed. A gray arm was wrapped around my leg, pulling me toward the wall. I kicked and clawed at the carpet. Evelyn screamed, but her voice sounded far away. The wall opened like a mouth. Inside, I saw people packed into darkness. Not dead exactly. Not alive either. Just stuck, waiting, pressed together behind the hotel's clean wallpaper. Then Maya appeared in the doorway. She had a fire axe from the emergency cabinet. She swung into the wall. The thing holding my ankle let go. Maya grabbed me and dragged me into the hallway. Room 407 slammed shut behind us. We ran. The elevator was gone, so we took the stairs. When we reached the lobby, the front doors opened like nothing had happened. We didn't stop running until we were outside in the parking lot. The next day, I went to the police. They didn't believe most of it, obviously. But Maya had the old folder. Names, dates, reports, missing employees. Enough to make someone curious. 2 months later, during a private inspection, workers opened the sealed wall where 407 used to be. They found human remains. More than one person. The hotel closed for structural repairs. Maya quit. I quit. The story never made big news. Hotels are good at making ugly things disappear. But one thing still bothers me. Before I left town, I got a letter with no return address. Inside was a yellowed hotel postcard from the 1980s. On the back, someone had written, "You open the door." Below there was a fresh maintenance request. Room 407. Issue. They know your name now. Priorité, urgent. I burned it in my sink. That was 3 years ago. Since then, I've moved twice. Changed my number. Changed jobs. But every now and then, usually a little after 2 a.m., I hear 3 knocks from inside my apartment wall. Knock, 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 and a woman whispers, "Maintenance."